The winter meetings are almost here, and today we're joined by Katie Woo from The Athletic to get her insight on what the Cardinals have done so far and where things could go from here. This is Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinal fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Loop, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. The podcast available as well, LO_Cardinals. We want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube as well if you want to see our faces. We are here. Like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. It is Thursday, November the 30th, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce you to a woman that you probably know about already, but has been covering the game of baseball for a number of years, specifically has been covering the Cardinals for The Athletic since 2021, I believe. The one and only Katie Woo joining us here today. Katie, welcome in.
JD, thanks so much for having me, and quite an exciting couple of weeks here in St. Louis for the Cardinals, I would say.
Oh, boy, they've been keeping us busy, haven't they? You guys can see, by the way, Katie's work. If you're unfamiliar with The Athletic, go to theathletic.com. Get signed in. I've been a subscriber for years now. It is one of my go-tos where it comes to information about all sports, but specifically the Cardinals. Katie does a fantastic job. You've heard her on, I don't know, a bazillion radio stations in the St. Louis area. You know, our friend Brooke Grimsley and the crew at 101 ESPN have her on all the time. So check her out there, as well as follow her on Twitter X at Katie J. Woo. All right. Let's start with what the Cardinals have done already before we start speculating about everything that's happening with them in the future. The whole planet knew that the Cardinals were coming in, targeting pitching this offseason, and they've addressed the rotation right away with those signings of Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Sonny Gray. Now, many people were skeptical whether or not Mo was actually going to be able to get those three starters that he talked about, and here we are before the winter meetings, and he's already completed that mission. Were you surprised at all by how quickly John Mozeliak just sprung into action and got these guys locked up?
I was very surprised, and that's no knock on Mo or the Cardinals front office, but just in terms of the daunting task that the Cardinals had to do when acquiring three starters. When Mo said that he was going to get three starters right around the trade deadline, I certainly didn't think that he would get all three in free agency. And then when you add the fact that he did that before December 1st, and one of them was Sonny Gray, arguably a top 5 available arm, both in free agency and in trades this year, that to me was really surprising. I think the most positive takeaway from these signings, you know, minus the obvious and Sonny Gray being a great addition for this club, is that they happened so quickly and that the Cardinals did not waste any time. There was a lot of talk at the general managers meetings in November about waiting for markets to be set. Well, there are many teams kind of holding on to the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. Where is Yamamoto going to go? What about Cody Bellinger? That the Cardinals decided, hey, you know what? We need starting pitching and we need it ASAP. So we're going to set the market ourselves. And they went out, they got Lance Lynn, they got Kyle Gibson, took a quick Thanksgiving break, and then landed Sonny Gray, their preferred top target all along. I think that's really encouraging, both the timing and how they expedited their way into launching that market.
Now, from the reception that I've seen online from fans and what I've received just under comments and stuff, the Sonny Gray deal has been very well received and is considered a home run by many. Obviously, you're not going to please everybody. It's impossible. But a lot of fans are still kind of on the fence about Lennon Gibson. And some fans, you know, they'll stare at the stats from last year and they, you know, they see all the hits and they see all the runs and the home runs, and they refuse to see any sort of positive in either of these signings. What can you tell the fans about Lennon Gibson that might make them feel a tad bit better about what they offer and why Mo would have targeted them specifically in the free agent market?
So JD, here's the Cardinals' way of breaking that down. I mean, we also saw what the 2023 rotation looked like. It was not good. And a lot of the times, especially in the second half, the Cardinals found themselves scrambling for innings. Now that made sense because at the trade deadline they had traded away Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty. Of course they were going to scramble for innings. But if you think back to April, May, when the Cardinals could not log a quality start to save their lives, and you thought about how much that organization had to scramble to cover innings, it was a mess. And I think it directly propelled, I mean, there were a lot of things that went wrong last year, don't get me wrong, but I think it directly propelled that kind of avalanche snowball effect into where the Cardinals ended their season. So to combat that, the Cardinals organization said they needed to go out and they needed to find innings in bulk. And remember, they were filling 3 rotation spots just to get them to 5. So by doing that, they went out and they wanted durable veteran guys who had done this before. Not saying they don't count on a Zach Thompson or a Matthew Liberatore or any of the younger guys in the system, but they felt like they could not take a gamble on anyone that didn't have a certain amount of innings in their career or consistently in terms of starts made, innings pitched to go fill out that rotation. They wanted to shore up depth and they wanted to do it immediately. I totally hear fans' points when you look at the stats for 2023 for Gibson and especially Lynn. Lynn gave up the most home runs in baseball last year. He had an ERA over 5. Kyle Gibson, ERA over 4, gave up, he had the most games started in the American League, but also gave up a significant amount of hits there as well. But I think the Cardinals' way of thinking was, we need veteran experience. We need innings. Let's get these 2 guys. We think we can fix them. They are obviously very familiar with Lance Lynn. I think the Kyle Gibson was a little bit more competitive than people might believe, and they went out and they got those innings because what good does it do to go out and sign Sonny Gray and have nobody else to supplement the rotation behind him with? That was their rationale for thinking.
What about the order of them making these signings where they kind of took care of the back end of the rotation first and then went up? Because you heard Sonny in the interview where he kind of looked there and he goes, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but yeah, we hadn't even talked to the Cardinals before they had already signed Lynn and Gibson. Did that surprise you that they attacked the back end of the rotation first and then we're like, yo, now that we can go to the top?
I don't know if it surprised me. Maybe it startled me a little bit when the Lance Lynn news broke and was talking to my teammate Ken Rosenthal about it. We were like, okay, so this clearly isn't their only move, and it feels a little silly when you see a move come in and your next immediate thought is what's next. But that's immediately what I thought.
Yeah.
The timing, I could understand fans and the maybe slight panic attack that happened, thinking, okay, no, this can't be it. But it was very obvious that it wasn't going to be it. I understand the Cardinals' rationale and thinking because now that you have Sonny Gray, having Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson as those insurance back end of the rotation arms makes a lot more sense. I think it also really helped that the Cardinals were able to get Gray so quickly after Lynn and Gibson. I think that allowed everyone to take a deep collective breath because the timing at first was a little jarring.
Yeah. Especially when he gives out the number, we're going to get 3, and then 2 of them are gone right away, and they're not exactly the names everybody was excited about. So, yeah, panic attack is a good way to describe what a lot of people were feeling at that moment. But you mentioned the Sonny Gray, the signing goes down, and people took a deep breath and they relaxed a little bit. Phenomenal year last year, so much that he finishes second in the AL Cy Young Award, voting behind the Yankees' Garrett Cole. In your opinion, what is it about Gray at his age right now that makes you believe that last year wasn't a fluke, what he did with Minnesota, and that he can maintain not the exact level that he did last year because that was incredible, but similar production moving forward while wearing a Cardinals uniform over the next 3 to 4 years?
I think just listening to how Gray handled himself in that press conference, he was saying all the right things. And there's a difference between guys who go out and say the right things and the guys who go out there, say the right things, and then back them up. And what Sonny Gray did for Minnesota in 2023, I mean, what he was saying in his press conference, those things aligned pretty perfectly to me. It was clear that, minus Adam Wainwright, who was in and out in 2023 with injuries and things, that the Cardinals kind of lacked that veteran clubhouse leadership in their rotation. They were relying on a lot of moving parts, a lot of spot starts from young guys, and to just have an established core of guys that have been there, done that, that was super important for St. Louis. They definitely have that in Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, but they have that even more so in Sonny Gray at the top of the rotation. You need someone that can go out there and set the tone. And all signs for what Sonny Gray did in Minnesota and how he's come over to the Cardinals, how he identified them, what he said about the baseball culture, the history here in St. Louis. Those were
Mhm.
all things that you say only knowing you can back them up. Now, am I coming out here and saying that Sonny Gray could be, second place in the NL Cy Young next year? No. Do I expect him to be a formidable top of the arm in this rotation? Absolutely.
Now he signs the contract, and then details started to creep out about what made up that contract. I want to get into that next and what it may or may not mean for future moves. We're going to talk some more about the bullpen and how they might go about improving that. We'll have that more with the Athletics' Katie Woo coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Guys, that's $150 if your team wins. Kind of nice. Nice chunk of change to have with the holidays right around the corner. And, if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, really no better time to get in on the action, no matter what your favorite sport might be, because it's all going on right now, except for baseball, where you've got the Blues are in action. You've got all the NFL. You've got NBA. You've got college football. You've got college basketball. The app is really easy to use. You can bet on a wide range of different ways to do it, like spreads and player props, over-unders. We got another week of games set to kick off tonight with the Seahawks at Dallas. Dallas favorite tonight, but I've said before, Thursday night games, they're a little weird. It's a short week for them, so I get a little nervous making bets on the Thursday night games, but you can always go with parlay bets instead, make things a little more entertaining for you. Anytime touchdowns is obviously something you can choose. I saw one on the app today where they had Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks as anytime touchdowns for Dallas, along with the Seahawks, DK Metcalf. And if you put down a $10 bet, you'd win almost $400. So think about it and then head on over to FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Once again, joined by Katie Woo, who covers the Cardinals for The Athletic at theathletic.com. Sonny Gray's contract. So people are starting to get kind of excited about this, Katie, because how the money is spread out throughout this deal. He's going to make much less this year, and then it escalates to 25 and then to 35 before that option year. And people get crazy ideas, and they start suggesting that because of the savings where it's only $10 million this year, it could mean that another major move could be in the works for the Cardinals. Maybe something with the starting rotation, perhaps a deal for someone like Tyler Glasnow from the Rays, who's got his large salary that Tampa Bay is trying to get rid of. Do you think this is still a realistic possibility, or do you think that the rotation's been addressed and it's likely that Mo moves on to other things like the bullpen at this point?
Kind of a two-part answer here. I
Okay.
do think that it is completely plausible that the Cardinals continue looking at one more move for their rotation. The way that Sonny Gray's contract is structured, for those of you who ask what Mike Gersh does, contracts, he does stuff like that. So I think it was a really commendable move from the front office and very savvy move to get that money allocated where they had a little bit more financial flexibility in 2024. Do I think that move, if the Cardinals decide to go back and address the rotation one more time, comes through free agency? I do not. Even with that backloaded contract, it's not enough money. They were never going to be heavily in on Yamamoto, just given on how extensively they had to add in bulk. They certainly don't have enough money now, or the way that their payroll is set up and the things that they've expressed they don't want to exceed. They don't have enough to get him now. Now, I mean, the argument is to open the books, but they're not going to do that. They've already spent and I think found their free agent acquisition. Now, do I think the Cardinals can still address the rotation via trade? I do, and I think that's something that St. Louis will pursue at the winter meetings. I also think they do have enough money to pursue relief pitching both in free agency or via trade, and I think that might be the avenue they pursue first. But I don't think that they can be necessarily counted out of the starting pitching market in terms of trades. Free
Mhm.
agency, yes, but I do think they have the prospect depth and the resources to make a trade for a convincing starter that could pair up with Gray near the top of the rotation.
Yeah, because when you talk to other experts around the league and they say, yeah, the Cardinals have done some good stuff here, they're like one pitcher away, just one guy. And to know that if that's all it takes to put you into World Series contention, it just feels like it'd be like tough to have it like right there to reach out and grab and then not to do it is tough. But again, they've got a budget that they've set in their minds, and they're going to stick to it. And the bullpen, I'm glad you brought it up because the bullpen is something that we know was really, really rough last year.
Yep.
A lot of issues. They broke a lot of hearts of many fans, including myself, on many, many nights. The free agent market for relievers, it's got some pretty recognizable names available, and a few who have some closing experience, which is something personally I believe that the Cardinals should be targeting, considering that you've got some limitations with Ryan Helsley and his health concerns over his career so far. Do you think that's the type of reliever that Mo might be looking at, somebody who can kind of pair up with Ryan at the back end of the bullpen and close some games when he's not available?
That's exactly who I think the Cardinals will target in terms of finding a complement for Ryan Helsley. When you look at the back end of that rotation with Jordan Hicks gone, or that bullpen, excuse me, with Jordan Hicks gone, it's just Helsley and Giovanni Gallegos, who I think is going to be much better than he was in 2023. He was up until last season, right? Fingers crossed for Gio. One of their most consistent relievers, and the thing about Gio that the organization respects so much, his teammates respect so much, is he takes the ball every single day.
Mhm.
Outside of those two, though, you have King, who's somewhat reliable. I thought he was your typical setup man, ground ball guy that the Cardinals seem to always find every year. And I thought Jojo Romero was promising, but that's not a bullpen that you feel really confident in saying that's going to go out there and slam the door. So while Ryan Helsley can be very nasty, and we've seen it, we've seen him hit 102, 103, an all-star when healthy. I think if they find a high leverage reliever to pair with Helsley and count on that bounce back season from Gio, which the organization has full trust that will happen, then you're feeling a lot better about the bullpen.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, Katie, so
Okay.
don't get mad at me, but I want to throw some names at you and just give me your thoughts on whether or not you think they might be a fit with what the Cardinals have money-wise and what they need in their bullpen. So I want to start at the very top of the list here, which is somebody I think is probably it's kind of a pipe dream, but you've got Josh Hader because people will continuously bombard me and say, just go get Hader. Or they make it sound so easy.
Right, it's so easy.
Yeah. Josh Hader, thoughts on him and why or why not he could be with the Cardinals or will go somewhere else for a whole lot of money.
So we're seeing the reliever market start to develop a little early. I have not heard the Cardinals be connected to Josh Hader. Now that could be one of two things. That could just be information that I have not heard, or the Josh Hader market really hasn't started to heat up yet. Do I think that's realistic? My speculation as of today is no, just because Josh Hader is probably the biggest available name on the market, and the
Mhm.
Cardinals spent a significant amount of money already. However, like we talked about, they've done so in a smart way that has allowed them to allocate resources for later. I think they're probably looking at the next tier of relievers under Josh Hader. Pipe dream, absolutely. Do I think it's reasonable for St. Louis right now, given where they stand and the additions that they still hope to make? Probably not.
Well, let's go down to that next tier of people. One of the guys that I feel like he was a guy that I've liked for years. David Robertson. Now the Cardinals haven't been shying away from signing veterans this
No,
year.
they have not.
He's gonna be 39 years old, but I know he ended the year kind of with the Marlins, but overall had a pretty good season, stepping up for the Mets last year after they lost Diaz. What are your thoughts on somebody like a David Robertson who, at his age, maybe financially more appealing to the Cardinals and wouldn't need a big contract, obviously?
So, twofold again. One, we talked about veteran presence, how important that is. I also think that's important for the bullpen to have because if they rolled out the same bullpen, which Cardinals fans, I sincerely hope they don't next year, it would be a very, very young bullpen. So he would definitely help in that regard. He has that postseason experience, which is super coveted in this organization. And I talked about this a little bit on the Fast Lane on 101 with Brad Thompson a few days ago. They need a like splashy free agent or a splashy reliever and a safe reliever. Robertson to me is that safe option because you know what you're going to get. He's usually very, very good. I know he did not really fare how he wanted to in Miami last year, but he has that just kind of calm presence. You know, when he goes out there, that's the guy you can put in the back of your bullpen. He's going to show out and deliver. The Cardinals' safe option last year before they traded him away was Chris Stratton. A little bit of a different guy, but that sentiment still stands. Again, not quite sure what David Robertson's market looks like right now. You can kind of see what the reliever market looks like with Emilio Pagan going to the Reds, 2 years, $16 million. We had Ronaldo Lopez with the Braves 2 weeks ago, 3 years, $30 million. I don't think Robertson is at 3 years, $30 million. I think he's looking at a 1 year deal. But if the Cardinals are looking for another 1 year deal, maybe that's an avenue they go to. I just have a hard time feeling like fans would be super excited about that addition.
Yeah. You mentioned splashy, a name that can be very splashy a lot of times, and sometimes he hasn't been so good. But what about a guy like Craig Kimbrell, who has had a huge career with a lot of different teams, but looked pretty good in Philly this year? Is that somebody that maybe the Cardinals might be interested in?
He's going to cost a lot of money, right? When you have the career that Craig Kimbrell has and the rapport that comes with the territory. For me, I think the Cardinals are looking to lock down relievers for maybe more than a 1 year deal. It's always tricky. 2 to 3 year deals for relievers because relief pitching is so hard to predict. I mean, I feel like we have a breakout reliever every year that we've never heard of. I'm like, who is this guy? And you look at his stats from seasons before and you're like, how does this happen?
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not quite sure where the Cardinals will go in terms of relief pitching because that's a market they really haven't truly explored yet. But most of these like high impact veteran guys are going to be really pricey. And if they want to add more than one, I kind of don't see that in their pathway.
What about the Japanese import Yuki Matsui? We heard that report early on before things really got going that, hey, they might be an offer out there from the Cardinals, and then it kind of got simmered down a little bit to, well, they're showing interest. Have you heard anything new? Because I feel like it's been kind of radio silence with him, and it's all been Yamamoto coming over, and you haven't heard much about him anymore.
So pretty quiet on the international market front, I think for the same reasons that overall free agency has been quiet here. It's all about Yamamoto and where he's going to go. It's all about Ohtani. Where's Ohtani going to go? And then I think once those moves happen, again, like I said, the rest of the market will follow suit. But the thing is that most of these teams, these competitive teams that would be in on Ohtani or Yamamoto, you know, they're the teams that spend a lot of money. They're the big bucks teams. They're the Mets, they're the Cubs, there's the Yankees, the Dodgers. I mean, I feel like the Yankees are maybe one of the teams to be the most afraid of this offseason because just like the Cardinals, they were embarrassed last year. So the international market, to my understanding, has been relatively slow. I think once we see the winter meetings start to kick up next week, we'll probably have a better clarity on the relief market. But for now, since it's just getting early and it's just starting, it's pretty hard to tell.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up next with Katie, and we're going to talk about some trade targets. So if they don't go free agent wise, maybe there are some other names out there with some outfielders the Cardinals have that maybe not want to be around next year. We're going to go through that next, and we'll see if there's any internal solutions for the bullpen that Katie thinks we should keep our eyes on, and we'll get into all of that next on Locked On Cardinals. Once again, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering each and every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Athletics' Katie Woo taking time out of her busy day to join us, and we've been grilling her about everything pitching so far. We're going to continue to hammer it. If the Cardinals don't find what they need through free agency for the bullpen, who are some players that you think that they should inquire about, or maybe you know they might be targeting via trade that could help them out this year?
Pitching, JD. You sound just like John Mozeliak. When you're looking at the trade market, we talked about this early on in terms of the rotation. My colleague Ken Rosenthal reported that the Cardinals still have interest in Dylan Cease with the White Sox. That always seemed like a natural fit. Went on the radio a couple of days ago and talked about this in prior articles. The White Sox match up. They're rebuilding, new front office. They match up with a lot of things the Cardinals already have. So they need outfielders. They need middle infielders. Well, what do the Cardinals have arguably too much of? Outfielders, middle infielders. The Tampa Bay Rays, could the Cardinals pursue something with Tyler Glasnow, a trade there? It'd be 1 year, but it would certainly help their rotation. I mean, if they want to go out and address the starting rotation with just 1-year contracts, I mean, that kind of works out too. But the Rays would probably, just given where they are in the standings and how competitive they are, look for major league ready players. Oh, the Cardinals have plenty of those. So we know St. Louis has a logjam in the outfield. We know that they're looking to move Tyler O'Neill, or I shouldn't say looking to. They're open to the idea of moving Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson for the right price. They don't seem too inclined to move Lars Nootbaar or Jordan Walker or Mason Wynn, though those two are probably pretty obvious. The big thing for me, though, JD, is if you're looking at the starting pitching market, you're looking at guys like Dylan Cease or Tyler Glasnow. Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson, they're probably not going to get you that. I can actually say they're definitely not going to get you that. So who, if you're the Cardinals, are you comfortable trading away? Because to get value, you have to trade away value. And they value that position core so heavily. Are you comfortable trading away Nolan Gorman with his potential 30-plus homer power from the left side to get pitching that you need? Are you comfortable trading away Tink Hence or a Tekoa Roby down in the minor league system to get pitching you need now? What are you comfortable parting with? Because it's going to cost you. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing the Cardinals face, is who from their major league ready club are they ready to part with, or do they want to part with? And who do they feel like they can take a gamble on in their prospect system?
Now, when I talk trades with people, the names Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman get brought up a lot because they're obviously attractive players who can do a number of different things. Something that has always been difficult for me to figure out is, what is the trade value of guys like that to other teams? We know they're important to us in St. Louis, and how big Tommy Edman is. He goes and wins a Gold Glove at seconds. All right, I'll go play short. I'll play center at Gold Glove level, no problem. What do you think the market value for guys like that is for other teams when talking about trades? Are they considered decent sized pieces, or are these trades that we're all coming up with just for fun? Are they ridiculous because that's not going to be enough to go get somebody like a Dylan Cease or a Glasnow?
So every team is going to evaluate players differently, but the general consensus within the industry for players like Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman, those Swiss Army knife kind of guys, is that they're valuable. And they're valuable because they can play multiple positions. And they're also valuable because they're young and currently have a lot of team control. Call me crazy, JD, but teams love when they have control over young players. So, is Donovan a superstar? No. Is he a very good player? I think so. Is Tommy Edman a superstar? No. Is he a very good player with a lot of different things he can do? Absolutely. So it's all about what each team is looking for. And if you're a team like the White Sox and you're looking to get right back on your feet, over a team like the Rays that are very savvy in creating positions and finding ways to be successful on a small budget, you look at those kinds of guys. Now, if I had to choose, if I'm the Cardinals and I'm choosing between Brendan Donovan and Tommy Edman, personally, the Cardinals I think would prefer to keep both for obvious reasons.
Sure.
But I would be wary of trading away Tommy Edman, because if you do that, who plays center field for you next year? Now, we can go back and forth on Tommy Edman not having the arm of a center fielder, but to me, it was clear as day. He was the best defensive center fielder the Cardinals put out there in 2023, followed by Dylan Carlson. Do the Cardinals trust Dylan Carlson enough with his inconsistent bat to be in the lineup every day? We saw that they don't. Lars Nootbaar, love him. Everyone loves Lars. He's definitely a better corner outfielder than he is a center fielder. So I think that's what the Cardinals are more inclined. If I was in the front office, which I'm pretty sure the front office is glad I'm not, that I would be more inclined to keep Tommy Edman than Brendan Donovan. But we'll see. Again, teams like the White Sox, teams like the Rays, anyone that is looking to part with starting pitching because it is so coveted, not just by the Cardinals, but by so many other organizations, are going to look to squeeze teams dry. And it just comes up to the Cardinals being, what are they comfortable in parting with?
And one final thing with the winter meetings coming up on Monday, which, things get kind of wild for everyone. Outside of the Cardinals organization, what are some of the more interesting storylines for you that you foresee coming to a conclusion? We've heard a lot of stuff about Soto. We haven't heard much about Ohtani. We don't know where he's going. Bellinger, you mentioned these names. Is there a certain story that you're really intrigued by right now that you're like, I can't wait to find out what happens?
So the story that had captivated most of my offseason up until about a week ago was who the Padres were going to hire as a manager. I would text our Padres reporter, Dennis Lynn, every day, like, what's up? And he was like, I don't have any answer for you. I was like, okay, fine. And now that that's over and Mike Schilt gets a second chance to manage in San Diego, I, like everybody else, where's Ohtani going to go? This is very important to me. I don't know why because he's not coming to St. Louis, but I feel so connected to where he's going to go. Same with Yamamoto. I think those are just two big names. And now, there's been some good reports on The Athletic about Juan Soto and what the Padres could do to trade him. That's something I'm looking at. And I think, at least for me, I keep forgetting, the Cardinals have the slimmest of chances of getting the number one pick in next year's draft at the winter meetings, that lottery system. I did not come into this season thinking that was going to be a storyline that I would even sniff at covering.
Right.
So from a work perspective, I'm excited to cover a lottery draft, see how that works. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, we know you got a lot of work ahead of you. I assume you are headed to the winter meetings to cover
Yes,
everything?
sir. I'll go to
All
Nashville
right.
on Sunday. Should be a great time.
All right. Well, make sure you guys hit up theathletic.com if you haven't already and follow all of Katie's work as well as all of the other great writers. She mentioned Ken Rosenthal. There's a ton of them over at The Athletic covering all the teams and all the sports. So make sure you get on over there and check them out. Once again, guys, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us follow on Twitter at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Obviously, you can follow Katie at Katie J. Woo on Twitter X as well. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. Katie, thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope to have you back on when things get even more crazier after the winter meetings. I appreciate your time.
You got it, JD. Thanks so much. It was a great time.
All right, guys, you're the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.